Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. You're watching Daddy Daughter Talk, and I am Kelsey, and you are.
I'm Dad. I'm Chris.
And what we talking about today?
Well, in light of what's going on, I think it's just kind of appropriate that we talk about the George Floyd situation and just the outrage that is spreading across our nation right about now.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. Well, I like your sign in the back says "Dear Black Man." But this is an interesting time. It's been an interesting year, a very eventful year, marked with COVID-19, and now we have unrest all over the country. I mean, from Minnesota to Atlanta to New York to Seattle to San Jose, California, and everywhere in between. It's super eventful nowadays, and you have this has been going on for a while, though. You know, George Floyd is a senseless killing, and it's a long line of senseless instances like this where it falls under the category of police brutality. So for African Americans in this country, this is a continuation of Mike Brown, Eric Garner, I'm sorry, uh, uh, Castillo, Tamir Rice, and just on and on and on. It's a continual case for us, the same cases over and over and over again. Every time it happens, it's like the scab is ripped open from the sore, and it's a super sensitive topic. I am a Black son, and I know my mother worries about me constantly. I have a son, and I worry about him constantly. I have a daughter, obviously. I worry about her. Um, it's a really, really tough time. And we as people have to wrap our heads around what's going on. We have to be vigilant, responsible, but we also have to be aware. Everybody has to be aware because we do have agendas out here where things are being shown. They're kind of being shown from one perspective. But to some, it's obvious that it is an agenda and all the information that's being placed out there is not accurate. So we have cases where the rioting is going on, but it's not the rioters that are starting the violence. And those messages need to be seen, those messages need to be heard, and the people need to see what's really going on out there. Because unfortunately, we do have forces that want it to look like the rioters are out here doing what they're doing, but everybody has a camera now. Everybody's a cameraman. Everybody has access to film what they see. And we've seen instances where it appears that agents, whether it be police officers or just people placed in the crowd to appear to be as though they're participating in the protest when they're just really there to instigate and agitate, break windows, set things on fire. And that's really unfortunate. It's just, it's bad. It's really, really bad to sit back and think about where this country is heading. It's really, really bad. I don't have the answers to the question. I have ideas, but I don't have the answers to the question. But the first thing that we must do is come to terms with what is going on and who's doing it. It's not necessarily an issue of pointing blame, but just really sitting back objectively and dissecting what's happening. After you dissect what's happening, Then if you want to, you can assess blame. But we must first look at all of what's going on and just put it in perspective, put it in its categories. And from there, we can kind of come to a collective agreement on where we need to go moving forward. But I do see agenda, and I wish I knew where they were going with the agenda. A lot of times, once I see the agenda, I can identify where they're going. But with this, I really can't identify where they're going. I wish I knew. What information have you seen about the protesting?
As far as the protesting and just like the information in general, I'm gonna be honest. Every time I scroll and I see something, I just log out because it just be hurting my feelings. So I don't really look into that. But I have seen like some like live videos where there'll be peaceful protests and people will simply just be standing there, and then they'll still be getting hit with batons. They'll still be pushed back. Police are throwing things and causing an uproar. And I see how the narrative is being painted, but what the actual narrative is. And it's crazy how even in today's time and in today's society where there are cameras, you can see the situation for what it is. There's no shade of gray. It's literally black and white, not racially, but like this is what it is. Yet the narrative is still trying to be twisted and turned from something that it's not.
I saw a video. I think I saw it today. It may have been yesterday, but I know the aftermath, the secondary portion of it, I saw it today. I'm not sure where it was, but an older gentleman, probably in his 50s, maybe 60s, gets out of his car where a rally is being held, and he comes out with a bow and arrow. And he may have, I know he threatened to shoot it. He may have let a bow go. And once he did whatever he did, the crowd said, "Get him." And they jumped and beat on this guy. But he did an interview later on. So I thought they beat him worse than that. But if he was able to do an interview, I guess they only did so much damage to him because he was able to clearly speak. And the reporter had asked him what happened. The man said that, "I just yelled, 'All lives matter' out of my window." And two black guys beat me through my window. They beat me inside my car. And I'm assuming he's not aware that there's a video of him standing outside of his car with a bow drawn, an arrow drawn to shoot someone. And the crowd turned to beat him up. And I can't say for certain that there were no blacks in that crowd, but first off, it was more than two people. And the people that I saw beating on them were not black. So my question would be, why would you say black people beat you and black people didn't necessarily touch you? At least from my viewpoint, you said two people beat you in your car, but you were standing outside of your car and there was a crowd that appeared to be non-black that was beating you. Why would you say that? And I know you can't answer that question, but I'm asking. It's a facetious question because I know you can't answer it. But why would you say that African Americans beat you and they didn't? It's like the lady that was in Central Park, and the black guy approached her talking about putting her dog on a leash. And she told him, "I'm going to call the police and tell them that an African American man is threatening me and my dog's life." And proceeded to get on the phone and call and say that African American man was threatening her life. I don't understand why anybody would do that. But at the same time, I asked the question of them, what's your goal? What do you expect to happen? So when she called the police to say an African American man was threatening her life, what did she want the police to do? Did she want the police to come to the park and tell him to stop bothering her? Or did she want them to come to the park and put hands on that man or threaten his life? What did she want to happen with that response? And the guy saying that 2 African-American men beat me inside my car. What did you want to be the outcome of that? And it's just so much going on where you do have people out demonstrating, but you also have, like, one instance, and I don't know where this was, but they were demonstrating in a downtown area. And the young man came on and showed, hey, don't fall for the setup. There was a pallet of bricks outside of a building, but there was no construction going on. So what's the purpose and point of those bricks being outside of this building? It's so many different things going on right now. And where do we go next? I mean, like, what do we do other than, only thing I can think of is to sit back and dissect what's going on. But be honest with ourselves when we're dissecting this information. Because if we just listen to certain streams of media, they're going to paint it the way they want to paint it. And everybody just accepts what it is they say because that's who said it. And I just don't think that's a wise thing to do. And personally, I think it's a very dangerous thing to do, is just accept that source as law when there's so many other bits of information that can be interpreted and digested.
I think the most infuriating part about it is that we can see, if you do a little research, which I'm very guilty of not doing such thing just because it angers me to no end. But if you just do a little bit of research, you can see for yourself what's going on. And from there, you can decide if you want to step up and do something about it, or if you want to continue to be oblivious. And the fact that still today in this world, certain sources and certain media outlets can paint over the truth, just jump hills and mountains over the truth, and people still believe it. Not only those that aren't of color, but those who are of color. Like, it takes a simple search, a simple Google, type it in search engine, and you can see for yourself. And as easy it is to say that, I can also see on the other end where, like, right now I'm at a dilemma. Do I want to learn more about this so that I'm educated and nobody can paint a narrative that doesn't exist? Because as long as I stay uneducated, people can tell me anything. And it's up to me to whether I want to choose and believe it, trust but verify. But at the same time, do I educate myself and I go through that hurt, that anger, and that fear? And so it's like I'm at a crossroads. Like, me personally, I don't want to be angry all the time. I don't want to fear all the time. I don't even want to dwell in that. But how can I learn to move on? How can I progress? And how can I know what I need to do next if I don't educate myself? So I'm trying to get out of that don't want to be hurt, don't want my feelings hurt, because they're going to get hurt. I'm going to feel passionately about these things. But I also can't allow the narrative that's being painted to be my holy grail, to be my gospel, to be my matter of fact, because it's not. And it's clear that even in today's society where there's cameras, there's film, and there are people who are literally at the forefront of this all, who have documentation on what is actually happening, and they can twist it and paint it around. Like in Minneapolis, I've seen some things where they say that in the riot there were gunshots and there were this and there were that, but for the people who were there, they said that even though it was live streamed, it was edited into it. They added that audio. So if I don't do my own research and I don't actually kind of dive into this and learn more about it and educate myself, for all I know, I wasn't there. It was gunshots,
But Here's my question. What is it benefiting? Let's say it's true that they edited gunfires into the audio. What is it benefiting them? And I know you can't answer that question. I'm not asking for you to answer that question. I'm just asking, what is the benefit of creating a narrative that does not exist? It's like, so, I mean, we're from St. Louis. So we're familiar with the Mike Brown situation in Ferguson and everything. You ever been to Ferguson? I know you've been to Ferguson. What's dangerous about Ferguson? It's a suburb. It's a suburb of St. Louis. It's not dangerous at all. But listening to the people, the media, it is Chirac, for lack of a better term, and it's absolutely not.
No.
But what is the purpose and the point of creating a narrative that's not true? Or it amazes me where you have people that, let's say in Chesterfield, Missouri, that have an opinion of Ferguson, Missouri, yet they've never been there before. And they speak as if they are experts on it based on what they saw. But you and I been to Ferguson a million times. Nothing's going on in Ferguson. The only thing that's ever happened in Ferguson was the Mike Brown situation and the quote unquote riots that have ensued thereafter, which during those demonstrations, there were people that said it was a peaceful demonstration until somebody else came along, started throwing rocks, started shooting, things along those lines. What is the objective? Where are we trying to go with the false narrative? Is it to distract from the activities that happened previously? Which if Mike Brown was not killed, you wouldn't have had the riots. You wouldn't have had the demonstration. If George Floyd had not been killed, you wouldn't have the demonstrations. If Eric Garner had not been killed, you wouldn't have the demonstrations. Tamir Rice, Philando Castillo,
Sandra
Bland, just on and on and on and on. And I had a conversation with somebody on social media, and their question was, why do they keep tearing up their own community? My response to the question is, why are you talking about the response and not talking about the stimulus? I mean, he was wrong and everything. I just don't understand why they tear up their communities. But you're bypassing the cause of the action. Why isn't that energy applied to the cause? Because every time you have this cause, you have this reaction. If we stop the cause, you don't have to worry. You don't even have to ask that question about people tearing up their communities. But every single year, we have cars flipped over, burned, windows broken out, looting being done behind sporting events. It ain't necessarily minorities at these demonstrations, but nobody paints them as thugs. They're painted more like rambunctious kids, rowdy fans. What is the intention behind painting the same activities in a different light based on who's participating? And as you've seen through these demonstrations, it's not Black people that are out here by themselves. Plenty of white people out there. But we're putting it on one group. And then you have videos where I saw one today where it was two white women dressed in all black and had their lower face covered and had their upper face covered. The only thing that was showing was their eyes. And you could easily tell that these were not these were not Black people. These looked like white women. They were painting BLM on a building. And the Black woman approached them and said, yo, you're not Black. Why are you painting this building. Don't paint that building. That's not what we're here for. Don't mess up those people's property. And they turned around and said, some black people asked us to do this. And she stated clearly, don't do that, because when you do that, when they come and see BLM on the side of that building, they are going to assume that we did it and we didn't do it. And here's my video proof that we didn't do it. But don't do that. We didn't ask you to come here. Get out of here. They have an agenda as well. What's the agenda? And all this information's out there. If I can see it, you can see it. They can see it, they can see it. It's disheartening. It's angering. That we got to go through this. Where we're saying, hey, I'm not doing anything other than being frustrated by what you did. And is that the goal? To just distract everybody from what I did. I'm gonna throw out this whole, start this whole everything just to distract everybody from what I did. And I don't get it, but it's a really, really sad place for this country to be in. And 2020 has been a really, really tough year.
Throw it away. Throw it in the trash. We can get rid of it.
But what they say, 2020 was a car, I'd tell them pull over and let me out. I mean, we still got COVID going on. We still got COVID going on. We have people that are dying for whatever reason, whatever the cause is, they're dying, but their families can't even bury them. Families can't even bury them. And now we're dealing with this on the back end. I don't get it. And I personally don't understand how they say I stand for the blue. Okay. My question is, are you standing for policemen, as in people, or are you just standing for the uniform? Because EMTs is blue too. Now, anybody standing up for the EMTs. Firefighters are blue too, but nobody's standing for firefighters. EMTs and firefighters are still very respected in the community. But the relationship between police officers and the community just ain't all that. So when people say they're standing for the blue, I'd really like to know what it is they're standing for. Because inside of that blue uniform is a human being, and not noun human being. It's perfect. So why do we put the uniform in front of the human being? That's another question I'd love an answer to. So what's going on out your way? Any demonstration going on out your way?
From what I hear downtown, there's been a lot of riots.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been. I've been at work. But work's been canceled. Well, not canceled, but cut short.
Mm-hmm.
We're on curfew between the times of 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. So we have to close early, pack up everything, try to put as much extra security as possible at work.
So that's how this,
because like where I live, compared to like the downtown areas, they ain't gonna mess this up.
They'll normally focus where businesses are, kind of, sort of, and that's good. You don't live in a hot zone, but that's how this has impacted your day-to-day life. Like yourself, where I live at, it's a residential area, so not any demonstration going on here. I believe that there is demonstration going on downtown, or had been going on downtown. And I'm praying for everybody that's in this fight for righteousness. I'm praying for those that are fighting on the side of righteousness. I want it to be over, but I realize and understand that it's not likely to end anytime soon, specifically the way that it should be. But we're just not at that point to where we're willing to have that dialogue. We still have agendas out there, and the agenda's not set to be the right thing, to be righteous, and that's sad. We still have this color line drawn in in the sand of who's right, who's wrong, who deserves to be treated like a human being and who doesn't.
You know what's crazy though? As I was preparing to shoot another episode, which we may still do that after this, which is why it says "Dear Black Man" back there. I was doing a little research and rewatching the James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni joint. And in that video, he talks about how he went overseas. I think it was like London or somewhere in.
I think it was in France.
Somewhere in Europe. I mean, be more broad. So and he was just talking about how he didn't feel like he could be a Black writer in America. And he said, silly of me to think that I can go anywhere because I'm still condemned to being me, being a Black man. And it's crazy how them love Black culture, but them don't love Black man and Black women and Black children. And to be Black in America means to be calculated, be meticulous. I can't say this because I don't want to be the angry Black girl. I can't do this because I'm not a thug. I can't breathe the same air comfortably. I have to think about my actions before I do it. I have to think about my words before I say them. How am I going to be looked at? No matter how sweet I am, no matter how kind I am, no matter how educated I am, no matter how articulate I am, I still have to be thoughtful of these things because this hoodie might offend somebody. These braids might offend somebody. When I go to work, I can't wear a Black Lives Matter mask. Somebody's got to question that. And that's a fight that could potentially make me lose my job. Somebody can be offended by that. I have coworkers that are ethnic, and when they follow their culture and their religion, people question it all the time. Granted, he's very articulate and he can handle his own, but I am condemned to being Black. I'm condemned to this culture. While I wouldn't change anything, some people overlook how calculated I must be so that I survive the same 24 hours that they do. I was at Sprouts the other day and I seen an older white woman pushing 2 carts. And I really wanted to ask her, did she need help? Because she was clearly struggling. But I had to think, how would these braids make me look? How does my skin make me come off? Will my intentions be misinterpreted? So I proceeded to walk around her even though I knew she needed help. And that's weird.
It's key that you said what you said, and I don't think you were necessarily being calculating in what it is that you are, how you said what you said. Maybe you were, I don't know. But you said surviving. Surviving and living are 2 different ends of the spectrum. Surviving is over on this side. That's doing what's necessary, what's needed. Living is doing what you want to do. It's enjoying your life. You can't enjoy much of anything while surviving. And that's interesting that you say that because that's what we have to do in this society. We have to do that. We have to survive when others get a chance to live. And that's what I have to think about. Like you said, I have to think about my interaction with the police to where I have to put both hands on the steering wheel. Have all of my documentation already available. And when you ask me to do something, I have to then ask your permission to do what you asked me to do. I have to move very slowly and meticulous with intent to say, hey, I'm just getting what you requested that I get. I have to worry about you fearing me while I'm fearing you, while you're fearing me and I'm fearing you. It's a cycle there, but you're the one in control. Why are you afraid of me and you're the one in control? I once got pulled over because I was speeding. Hands down, you got me dead to right. And the cop told me, asked me where I was going, told me where I was going. So, well, you were speeding through this zone. So here's what's going to happen. Come on back to my car with me. I'm going to run your name. If you come back clear, I'm going to let you go with a warning. No problem. Runs my information. I come back clean. They say, okay, cool, you're good. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. I opened the door, said thank you. And he said, well, I got one more question for you. Close the door. Close the door. And he goes, you mind if I check your car? Do you have any illegal drugs or illegal guns? I said, no, I don't. He said, well, do you mind if I check the car? I said, no problem. So he goes up, I give him the keys. He goes up and checks the car. Once he gets inside, I have a backpack sitting on my driver's seat. He opens the backpack up and my gun is in my backpack in a gun box. Not loaded, 2 magazines, but not loaded. He opens the box and sees my gun. He proceeded to continue checking the car and everything. And when he got back to the car, he's agitated. And he says, why didn't you tell me you had a gun? Did you ask me if I had any illegal guns or if I had any illegal drugs? I don't have any illegal guns and I don't have any illegal drugs. He said, well, when I saw your gun, it made me nervous. My question to him was, why were you nervous? You have your gun, you have my gun, you're at my car, and I'm in your car. Why would you be nervous and you got all the damn guns? You didn't pat me down, so you don't know what I have or if I don't have. So apparently, I didn't seem like a threat if you didn't decide to pat me down. But you have my weapon and you're nervous. I'm tired of making people nervous without doing anything. Just I have to assume it's my skin tone that makes people nervous. So therefore, I have to assume that my son's skin tone makes people nervous. So myself and fathers like myself have to have conversations with their sons about what their skin tone means. I love my skin. I love the skin I'm in. I love being a black man. But I understand that this shell that I have makes me a threat to some people, and I just don't understand that. I just don't understand it. I realize that firefighters risk their lives every day running into burning buildings, but they do their job. I don't understand why police officers fear so much, but they choose this job. It's an occupation you choose. But I do see interactions with non-blacks, whites actually, that don't go the same way that they go with unarmed black. Armed whites that end with less bloodshed and more peaceful outcomes than police interaction with unarmed blacks. And I don't understand that. It's not a training thing, it's a mentality thing. And I don't understand the mentality.
And so it's crazy because before all of this happened, I had a dream that it was me, my mom, and Chase. I don't know why, and I don't know. Just roll with me on this. And we were at Rana's house, where she lives, right? So we were leaving her house to meet you on St. Louis Avenue. So as we were leaving the house, as soon as we turned out onto that main street, it was a whole bunch of white supremacists with artillery grade machinery, and they were shooting everyone. And so we're driving, trying to get to St. Louis Avenue. But of course we need to detour because there's people outside. Well, there was one cop, one white cop, and he didn't even have his hand on his holster. He didn't have a taser. He didn't have a baton, and he was calmly trying to plead with these people. Please don't kill them. Please don't harm them. Please stop shooting. In such a calm voice, I'm pretty sure they can't even hear them over the gunshots. And obviously, this is a dream, so it's playing out to where I can hear this. But so as we're now trying to get towards the highway area, there you can go two ways. One way, there's a group they got big guns, and another way, there's a group that I can't see what they have. So I'm like, hey, go to the left. Let's choose the left. I can't see what they got, but I can see that they got guns over here. So we go to the left, and they throw a grenade inside of the car, and it lands like in the windowsill to where I'm able to just throw it back out, and I wake up, and I'm flustered when I get up. Flustered. And the first thing I want to do is call my parents, but I don't, because not only am I their child, but I'm still a Black girl in society, and I know they worry about me, and I don't want to add to their worry. And then I'm angry because I can't even go to sleep. And while this may be far-fetched in how it played out, and the fact that there's just one cop, and it may be far-fetched, but I can't even go to sleep peacefully and not think about things like this, because it's close enough to reality that I can dream that can even come up. I don't even know how, because I wasn't thinking about nothing like that before I went to sleep. Nothing happened in my day-to-day life, but the fact that that is an option for Dreamville, obviously, and that I didn't, not only do I have to, dream about things like that, but then in order to also protect my parents, who are also both Black and both worry about me, I choose not to share things like that. I choose to keep it to myself because I don't want to add to their, I know you guys worry, so I don't want to add to that. And then that angers me even more because I'm like, hey, I can't, I'm stuck here. What do I do?
What do you do? You're minding your own business, and now your mentals is flipped upside down. And it's like you said, you feel as though that's a reality. Well, here we have unarmed people marching the streets and having to deal with the response and the reaction of the authorities, when just a few short weeks ago, to a month ago, in Michigan, it was somewhere else too, but specifically Michigan, where people had gone to the state capitol armed. There were no tear gas canisters being fired. There were absolutely no incidents at all. I mean, they came prepared to fight. We came prepared to walk and talk. But there's a completely different narrative being thrown, because they were just frustrated Americans. We're thugs. And I don't get it. What is the difference? How is it that they are allowed, not allowed, but why are they viewed more peaceful, armed, than we are unarmed? Video of the guy swinging an axe at a cop. Cop didn't even draw his gun. He's trying to reason with him. But we got unarmed brothers with knees in their necks, being placed in chokeholds, or just being shot. It's the keepers of the law are lawless. So is it the uniform? How do we put, and why are we putting the uniform over the human being. When every other uniform that people wear is not above humanity. If you have an EMT that's not doing their job and causing death, they're going to lose their job and be persecuted. If you have a firefighter that's starting fires, he's going to lose his job and be persecuted. If you have a doctor that's willfully killing people, they're going to lose their job and be prosecuted. Why aren't police held to the same law that they uphold? And that's all people are asking for. Hold them to the same accountability that citizens are being held for, because they pay taxes like everybody else, don't they? And why don't they have to follow the same laws? I can go deeper into that as far as the rules and regulations that are different for police officers. And they're the only people that the rules and regulations are different for like that. And I don't understand why they are different for them. I'm not going to go into it on this video, but the rules and regulations are different for police officers than they are for anybody else. And we got to get rid of these. We got to get rid of this mistreatment, because it's bad for everybody. I don't see any way, shape, form, or fashion that any of this is good for anybody. I don't see it. I know there's an agenda. I know that for certain, but I don't understand how this is good for anybody. Because you still got people that are not going to work tomorrow. That outside of this, they would be going to work tomorrow. And everybody has a constitutional right to be able to demonstrate. Because we have people demonstrating all of the time. And nobody does anything while they're demonstrating. Let them demonstrate. You know what's going to happen while you're demonstrating? At some point in time, you're going to have to go use the restroom. At some point in time, you're going to have to go get you something to eat. At some point in time, you're going to have to go to sleep. Let people demonstrate and they'll go home. They'll say what they got to say and then they'll go home. To open up rubber rounds and tear gas and everything, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. So I think they're inciting riots. You got demonstrations and then you incite the riot. I just want to know what the agenda is.
Couldn't tell you at all.
Well, it appears that we've asked a lot of questions on this episode. So I'm asking you, the audience, to help us come up with the answers. And with that being said, I think we're going to bring this episode of Daddy Daughter Talks to a close. So, Daddy Daughter, out.